My name is Jacob Rivers. I lived a simple, routine life. Work, family, and a quiet faith that I often took for granted. But over the last few months, something extraordinary began to unfold. I started having strange dreams, visions of a legendary figure, Muhammad Ali, standing tall in a radiant arena that seemed to shimmer with light. His voice echoed, not with words, but with meaning, powerful, profound, and urgent. I didn't understand it at first, but I felt a growing sense of purpose, as if I was being prepared for something. I couldn't have known that my life was about to end and that my spirit would meet the greatest fighter of all time in a battle that would redefine everything. It was an ordinary morning like any other. The sun streamed through the blinds, painting golden streaks across the kitchen table. I poured my coffee and thought about the mundane to-do list awaiting me. But something felt off, a faint pressure in my chest that I brushed off as stress. By lunchtime, the pressure turned into a sharp, stabbing pain. It was as if an iron fist clenched my heart, and my breath came in shallow, desperate gasps. Panic surged through me as my vision blurred, and the sounds of the world became distant, like I was underwater. I clutched my chest and stumbled toward the couch, my legs trembling beneath me. I could barely call out for help before collapsing. In those moments, terror gripped me like never before. My mind raced with questions. Is this it? Am I dying? And then, silence. Everything went black, and for a moment, I thought I had ceased to exist. But suddenly, I became aware of a strange light, warm, soft, and enveloping. It wasn't the blinding glare of a hospital fluorescence. It was alive, pulsing gently like a heartbeat. I realized I was no longer in my body. I hovered above myself, watching paramedics frantically work to revive me. The scene was surreal, my lifeless body on the floor, surrounded by strangers trying to pull me back. I felt an odd mix of detachment and empathy, as though I was witnessing the fragility of human life from a higher perspective. But then, the light grew brighter, pulling me upward. It wasn't just light, it was love, pure and infinite. I felt weightless, as if I'd shed a heavy coat I didn't realize I'd been wearing. The pain, the fear, the confusion, they were all gone. As I ascended, a new world unfolded before me. It wasn't like anything I had ever seen or imagined. The air shimmered with hues of gold and silver, and the ground beneath me seemed alive, like it breathed in harmony with the universe. I was overwhelmed by a profound peace, yet there was also an unshakable sense of purpose calling me forward. And then I saw him. Muhammad Ali stood before me, larger than life, and surrounded by an aura of brilliance. He wasn't the man I'd seen in photographs or videos. This was a version of him untouched by earthly frailties, radiating strength, wisdom, and an unshakable presence. "You've been brought here for a reason," he said, his voice deep and resonant, echoing like thunder, yet soft as a whisper. His eyes locked onto mine, and I felt as though he could see into the depths of my soul. I stammered, struggling to find words. Why? Why me? What is this place?" Ali smiled, a knowing smile that carried both compassion and challenge. "This is no accident," he said. "You've been fighting battles you don't understand. But the real fight, the spiritual fight, is just beginning." His words hit me like a tidal wave. Suddenly, flashes of my life raced before me. The struggles I had ignored, the fears I had buried, and the dreams I had abandoned. I saw moments of anger, selfishness, and doubt, but also moments of love, sacrifice, and hope. "You see," he continued, "life is more than what you know. Every struggle, every challenge, is a round in the ring. But it's not about winning. It's about standing up, learning, and becoming stronger." As he spoke, I felt an energy stir within me, a strength I didn't know I possessed. Yet, questions swirled in my mind. What was this spiritual fight? Why was Muhammad Ali, of all people, the one to guide me? Before I could ask, he motioned for me to follow. The world around us transformed into an arena, vast and infinite, with roaring crowds whose faces I couldn't quite see. But their cheers weren't for entertainment. They were filled with encouragement, as if urging me to rise to a higher calling. The air was electric, charged with anticipation. Ali turned to me, his expression serious. "Your journey doesn't end here," he said. "But before you go back, you need to understand what it means to fight, not just with your fists, but with your spirit." And just like that, I knew my life would never be the same. What I had experienced was more than a glimpse of the afterlife. It was a call to action, a revelation that the greatest battles are fought not with strength, but with faith. The arena around me faded into a realm so magnificent, so incomprehensible, that it took my breath away, if I even had breath in this state. It was as though I had stepped into the very heartbeat of creation. The air shimmered with living colors, hues that defied earthly description, swirling together in a symphony of light and sound. The ground beneath my feet wasn't solid in the way we know it. It felt alive, pulsing gently like the rhythm of a song I couldn't quite place but instinctively understood. The atmosphere was warm and inviting, filled with a presence that radiated love, peace, and power all at once. And then I saw them, figures of indescribable beauty and majesty. Angelic beings moved gracefully, their forms shimmering with an ethereal glow. They weren't like the cherubic images we see in paintings. These were warriors of light, their movements purposeful, their faces reflecting a wisdom and serenity that could only come from divine proximity. Their wings, if they could even be called that, were vast and translucent, adorned with shifting patterns of gold and silver that seemed to sing as they moved. One of the beings approached me. He stood taller than any man, his presence commanding yet comforting. His face shone with a light that wasn't blinding but piercing, as though it could see through the very fabric of my being. "Fear not," he said, his voice resonating with a depth and power that made the ground tremble, yet filled me with peace. "You have been brought here by the will of the Almighty, to understand the battles that rage within and around you." I couldn't speak. My thoughts were a whirlwind of awe and questions, but my body, or whatever form I was in, felt frozen in the overwhelming presence of this being. "The man you met," the angel continued, referring to Muhammad Ali, "was chosen to guide you into the truth. His earthly fights mirrored the greater spiritual battles that every soul must face. But now you stand on holy ground, where the veil is lifted and the eternal conflict is revealed." The angel raised his hand, and suddenly the realm around us expanded. I saw scenes unfolding in the distance, like windows into different realities. I witnessed battles, not with swords or fists, but with forces of light and darkness clashing in ways that defied the physical world. I saw ordinary people, some praying, some weeping, others lost in despair, surrounded by shadows that seemed to whisper lies and pull them into darkness. Yet for each shadow, there was a beam of light, piercing through the gloom, pushing back the forces of despair. "What is this?" I managed to ask, my voice trembling. "This is the truth," the angel replied, his tone both gentle and firm. "Every moment of your life, seen and unseen, is part of this great war. It is not fought with weapons of this world, but with faith, love, and the courage to stand against evil." I felt a surge of emotion, fear, awe, and a strange, profound hope. The battles I was witnessing were not distant or detached. They were personal. I saw glimpses of my own life, moments of doubt, anger, and apathy where the shadows had crept in. "But why me?" I asked. "Why was I shown this? I'm just, ordinary." "There is no such thing as ordinary," the angel said, his eyes blazing with intensity. "Every soul is part of the divine plan. You were chosen not because of who you are, but because of what you are meant to become. The world is crying out for warriors of light, those who will stand in faith and fight not with hate, but with truth and love." His words struck deep, stirring something within me that I hadn't felt in years. a sense of purpose, a calling. Then the angel stepped aside, and another figure appeared, one whose presence eclipsed everything I had experienced thus far. A light so pure, so radiant, that it seemed to emanate from the very core of existence enveloped me. From within the light, a voice spoke. It wasn't just a sound. It was a vibration that filled every part of me, resonating with an authority and love that made me fall to my knees. "Rise," the voice said. "You are not here to cower in fear, but to stand in strength. You have been given a glimpse of the eternal, so that you may return and fight the good fight." Tears streamed down my face, though I wasn't sure if they were tears in the physical sense, as the presence continued to speak. "Tell them," the voice said, "that the battles they face are not in vain. Every struggle, every hardship is refining them, preparing them for the greater glory that lies ahead. The fight is not against flesh and blood, but against the powers and principalities of darkness. And in every battle, they are never alone." The light began to fade, and with it, the overwhelming presence. The angel stepped forward once more, his face serene, yet filled with urgency. "You must return now," he said. "The world needs your voice, your testimony. Remember what you have seen, and do not be silent." Before I could respond, the realm around me dissolved into the shimmering light, and I felt myself being pulled back toward my body, my life, and the fight that awaited me. As I was pulled back from the overwhelming light, the angel reached out, stopping me. His hand hovered near my shoulder, and his expression turned grave. "There is more you must see," he said, his voice firm yet sorrowful. "The battles ahead are not only personal but global. You have been chosen to bear witness and deliver a message of warning and hope." In an instant, the world around us shifted. I found myself looking down at the earth. Not the familiar blue and green globe seen in photographs, but a world covered by an ominous, creeping darkness. The darkness slithered across continents like a living entity, heavy and oppressive. It suffocated entire regions, smothering the light that tried to break through. "What is this?" I asked, my voice trembling. "This is the state of the world," the angel replied. "The shadows you see are not mere metaphors. They are the manifestations of fear, hatred, deception, and spiritual complacency that have taken root in human hearts." I saw scenes unfolding within the darkness. Wars erupted across lands, nations consumed by greed and pride. I witnessed families torn apart by division and anger. Even the church, a beacon meant to shine in the darkness, appeared fragmented. In many places it was dim, the light almost extinguished by apathy and the allure of worldly comforts. Tears welled up in my eyes as I saw people wandering aimlessly, their faces void of hope, their spirits bound by invisible chains. "Why is this happening?" I whispered, my heart breaking. "Because the world has forgotten its creator," the angel said solemnly. "They have traded truth for lies, unity for division, and faith for fear. But even in this darkness, there is hope." He gestured toward the earth, and suddenly I saw small but powerful points of light scattered across the globe. These lights were individuals, ordinary people praying, standing firm in their faith, and refusing to be overcome. Their light pushed back the darkness around them, creating ripples of hope that spread far beyond their reach. "They are the remnant," the angel explained, "the ones who remain faithful in the face of great trials. Their prayers are like arrows piercing the heavens, calling forth divine intervention." The scene shifted again, and I found myself standing in the midst of a great city. It was bustling with activity, people rushing about, their eyes glued to screens, their minds consumed by the noise of the world. Above them loomed massive screens, broadcasting messages filled with deceit and fear. The words were subtle, yet their influence was pervasive, shaping thoughts, beliefs, and actions. "This is the age of deception," the angel said. "The enemy's greatest weapon is not war or famine, but lies. He whispers half-truths into the hearts of men, twisting their perceptions and leading them astray. As he spoke, I saw leaders, politicians, celebrities, even spiritual figures standing on platforms, their voices amplified to millions. Some spoke words of unity and love, but their actions betrayed hidden agendas. Others outright mocked faith and morality, leading crowds into deeper darkness. Will they all be lost? I asked, overwhelmed by the weight of what I was seeing. No, the angel replied, his voice steady. For even now, a great awakening is stirring. The Spirit of the Almighty moves among His people, calling them to rise. Revival is coming, but it will not be easy. The cityscape faded, replaced by visions of natural disasters. Earthquakes splitting the ground, floods consuming entire towns, and wildfires raging across forests. The cries of the afflicted echoed around me, filling my soul with sorrow. These are the birth pains, the angel said. They are not punishments, but warnings, calls for humanity to turn back to their Creator before it is too late. Yet amid the chaos, I saw moments of profound beauty. Communities came together to rebuild. Strangers offered their hands in love, and voices sang hymns of hope amidst the rubble. The light always shines brightest in the darkness, the angel continued. But the time is short. The world must choose. Will they continue down the path of destruction, or will they turn to the one who can save them? I felt a presence behind me, and I turned to see the radiant figure from before, the one whose voice had commanded both love and authority. The overwhelming light surrounded him, and his eyes held both sorrow and unwavering determination. "My child," he said, his voice soft yet thunderous, "you have seen what lies ahead. You must tell them that the time to act is now. The harvest is plentiful, but the laborers are few. Many are lost, but I am calling them home." His gaze pierced through me, and I felt the weight of his words. "Warn them of the darkness, but do not let fear consume you. For every shadow there is light. Every lie shall be undone by truth, and every chain shall be broken by love." I fell to my knees, overcome by the gravity of the mission being placed upon me. "But how can I, one person, make a difference?" I asked, my voice barely audible. "By standing," he replied. "By speaking. By living as a light in the darkness. You are never alone, for I am with you always, even to the end of the age." The vision began to fade, the scenes of darkness and light swirling together in a powerful crescendo. I felt myself being pulled back to the world I knew, my heart burning with both urgency and hope. As I returned to my body, I knew my life could never go back to what it was before. The revelations I had been shown were not just for me. They were for everyone. The fight is real, the stakes are eternal, and the time is now. When I awoke, my chest still ached faintly, as if the weight of the divine encounter lingered in my physical body. The room was quiet, except for the rhythmic beeping of the heart monitor beside me. My first thought wasn't about my near-death experience or the hospital I found myself in. It was about the light, the darkness, and the voice that had called me to action. The angel's final words echoed in my heart. The world must choose. Tell them it's not enough to know the right words or attend church. They must truly surrender their lives and walk in faith. In the days and weeks that followed, I couldn't shake the urgency of the message I'd been given. The scenes of darkness and light, the cries of those lost, and the songs of those redeemed were imprinted on my soul. But it wasn't the visions of despair that stayed with me most. It was the glimpses of hope, the evidence of God's power at work in ordinary people who answered the call. I began to notice stories of transformation all around me. People who had once been consumed by addiction, bitterness, and despair were finding freedom through faith. Families on the brink of collapse were being restored through love, forgiveness, and prayer. Communities, divided by politics and prejudice, were coming together in unity, their shared faith stronger than their differences. One story stood out to me, a man named Marcus, who had been living on the streets for years, drowning in hopelessness. One night, as he lay shivering in a cold alley, he cried out to a God he wasn't even sure existed. "If you're real, help me," he whispered. Within moments, a stranger appeared, offering him a warm coat and a meal. But it wasn't just the act of kindness that changed Marcus. It was the stranger's words. "You're not forgotten. God sees you, and he has a plan for you." That moment marked the beginning of Marcus's transformation. He turned his life over to Christ, and today he runs a ministry for the homeless, sharing the same message of hope that saved him. I realized that Marcus's story wasn't unique. Across the globe, ordinary people were being used by God to bring extraordinary change. They weren't pastors or theologians. They were everyday believers who had surrendered their lives fully, allowing God to work through them. As I reflected on what I had seen and learned, it became clear that the message wasn't just for the world, it was for me too. The fight wasn't just a grand cosmic battle, it was also deeply personal. I needed to equip myself, and I needed to share how others could do the same. This message isn't just for those who already believe. It's for everyone. The light is for anyone willing to open their hearts and take a step of faith. The divine voice I heard echoed in my mind as I wrote these words. Tell them it's not too late. No one is beyond redemption. But they must choose life or death, light or darkness. The battles ahead may seem overwhelming, but we are not alone. The Spirit of God moves among us, empowering His people to rise up. The revival has already begun, but it needs every one of us to take part. As I shared my testimony with others, I began to see the ripple effects. A young woman who had struggled with depression for years found hope and healing through prayer and community. A man burdened by guilt over past mistakes forgave himself after hearing about God's grace. One night, as I led a small prayer group, a woman shared her story. She had seen the same vision of creeping darkness and points of light during a near-death experience years ago. Her testimony confirmed what I already knew in my heart. The battle is real, and so is the victory. This is not just my story, it's yours too. Every person watching or listening to this has a role to play. You don't need to be perfect or have all the answers. You simply need to say yes to the call and trust God to guide you. The angel's final words to me were both a challenge and a promise. Go and tell them. The time is short, but the light is strong. Those who stand will not stand alone. And so I leave you with this. Will you join the fight? Will you stand in the light and push back the darkness, not with fear, but with faith? The world needs you, and so does the kingdom of God. The time is now. The choice is yours. When I woke up in the hospital, the world felt different. Not because it had changed, but because I had. My heart no longer carried the weight of uncertainty or complacency. I had been given a second chance, not just to live, but to share the truth I had witnessed. Every breath I now take feels borrowed, a gift meant to be used for something far greater than myself. The scenes of darkness and light, the voices of the lost, and the call to action from the divine figure continue to echo in my soul. I realized that my near-death experience wasn't just about saving me. It was about awakening a deeper understanding of what it means to live with purpose. The urgency of the message couldn't be clearer. The time is shorter than we think. Jesus' return is near, and the battle for our souls is intensifying. The world is filled with distractions, with lies that tell us there's always more time, that our choices don't matter, or that faith is outdated. But I saw the truth. I saw the spiritual fight playing out in every corner of the world and in every heart. This experience has changed how I live every single day. I no longer rush past the moments that matter, and I no longer stay silent about the message God has placed on my heart. I want to leave you with this question. Are you ready? Are you ready to face the battles in your own life with faith and courage? Are you ready to stand as a light in the darkness, to fight for truth, and to trust in the promises of God? The fight is real, and the stakes are eternal. But here's the good news. You are not alone. The same God who called me to share this message is calling you to live it. Time is shorter than we think. Whether you've been running from God, struggling to find your purpose, or simply going through the motions of life, now is the time to turn back, to surrender, and to let Him guide you. The question isn't just about being ready for the battles ahead. It's about being ready for the moment when we stand before the One who created us. Will you be ready? The choice is yours, and the time is now. Choose faith, choose light, and choose to live for the glory of the One who loves you beyond measure. Thank you for listening to my story. Now, go and live yours with purpose and hope.